Hi, my name's Neva and I'm from the COY7, which is the UK Youth Climate Coalition, and we're here in Durban for COP17.
My name's Tasha Peters and I'm here in Durban with the Canadian Youth Climate Coalition as part of the Canadian Youth Delegation.
My name is Kyle Gracie and I'm originally from rural Pennsylvania. I'm here with Sustain Us, but my role is really to work with coordinating the international youth called Youngo. What came out of Cancun was progress in the process. We moved forward on countries agreeing to different things in the negotiations, everything from finance to technology transfer to at least a process for agreeing on new commitments around cutting our greenhouse gas pollution. What didn't actually come out of the process was actual commitments to cut our greenhouse gases, or very much money from especially wealthier, high-polluting countries to help the world and themselves, and especially developing countries, to deal with climate change impacts and to stop climate change. So we got progress in the process, not that much progress in actually stopping climate change.
Outside was more interesting and a lot more hopeful. There were a lot of folks from Via Campesina there. There's a lot of folks from Indigenous communities there, like Arctic communities. There were big marches going on outside. There were a lot of people who came together around the World Bank out of global climate finance discussion. There was a lot of mobilization around the tar sands, both in actions inside and outside.
I think the most important thing that came out of COP16 was there was a rebuilding in trust in the multilateral process. So after Copenhagen, every country had their fingers burnt a little bit. So this was the opportunity for countries to come together and start to feel like everyone was included in the process, which was really important.
Last year, Bolivia actually blocked what came out of the Cancun talks. That block was just overlooked, essentially, by the UN Secretariat. They decided, yes, that's true, that was a block, but we still have a general consensus otherwise. A lot of the concerns that Bolivia had, which a lot of the folks who are here on the outside have, and that are important for communities, are not really being discussed on the inside, where actual decisions around this are being made.
So there are two things that I feel that were really important that came out. One was the result in Article 6, which is all about youth engagement and education and participation in the process. And we had a really positive result on that. Then the second thing that I'm really interested in is the setting up of the Green Climate Fund, which is going to be really important for funding adaptation for developing countries to climate change. I think it's also one of the really important issues that's on the table now in Durban, because it's how we get the money, how it's delivered, how it's divided equally.
So last 2 years were kind of a big deal in this, because we actually created this thing called the Green Climate Fund, which is a specific pot of money to fund climate change work around the world, and especially in developing countries. So this is actually trying to put money toward meeting commitments to stop climate change. But what we created was the pot, not the actual money. So now we have to fill the pot, and we haven't filled the pot very much. There isn't very much money.
To be 100% honest, I'm not really sure what's going to come out of Durban. I would love to see something really positive, and I'd love to see that certain parts of the deal get signed off. I don't think that we're going to get the fab deal that we all really want, but I think that you could get something really solid on the Green Climate Fund. I'm worried about what's going to happen to the Kyoto Protocol, because I think there are certain countries out there, naming no names, but the US, Canada, Japan, Russia, who want to kill it dead. And that's going to be really, really painful for the developing countries. We need to look to what they need and what they need now, rather than pushing it back to 2018, 2020, because that's too far in the future. We need action now.
Through lowering these expectations, they've been able to essentially scare civil society from really being honest about what we need. And I think that we need to start being honest about what we need. We need to start talking about that, like Bolivia did, in broader discussions with other people back home, with our communities, and those need to be what's actually talked about and pushed for, and a moral crisis is created around in the negotiations.
So right now what we're on track for is some kind of resolution about the Kyoto Protocol and its future. Probably some kind of roadmap for when we're going to finish negotiating a new legally binding agreement. A process for putting more money toward climate finance, and creating sort of the internal process for making sure that happens. and more movement on international transfer of clean energy technologies.
I think the really positive thing that we're going to get out of Durban is like a really powerful civil society movement. A lot of African youth who know and understand more about climate change.
Where are the voices of the people who are being displaced from their land because of sea level rises, because of natural disasters, who are being incredibly impacted by this, and again, did nothing to create it. They don't drive around in their SUVs every day. They don't have big factories in there. Well, they might have a big factory in their backyard, but they're not making any profit from it, and they're not the ones who put it there.
So if this was a perfect world, what I would see coming out of Durban would be every single country that's blocking the process realizing that what they're doing is hurting their own national interests as well as the interests of countries in other places around the world, and stepping up and showing leadership and signing off a deal that's going to reduce emissions. We're going to see an emission peak by 2020, and it's going to be beautiful.
We're here to change what we think will happen to what we need to happen. And so my expectations are that I expect we should stop climate change, like today. I mean, that's actually what we need. Where I think where we are right now, is that we don't know where Kyoto is going. It's very uncertain. We don't know where a legal instrument is going to be, a legally binding agreement for everybody. We're getting there, but it could be years and years from now before we agree to it. That's not fast enough. We need this stuff now. We need the money today, and we need the technology transfer. I mean, we all need it today. That's what we need. That's what the process and the world and people suffering from climate change, that's what they need to have happen.
We need to be treating this as a crime. We need to have a discussion where the people who cause the problem are at the heart of deciding what happens about it. Ultimately, it needs to be the people who are affected, who had nothing to do with it, who are saying where we need to go, what needs to happen, and what the solutions are.